Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Wheeler, for being here today. I appreciate it. I know there's been a lot of talk about the small refinery exemption, so I'm going to dive in right with you. Over the past year and a half, EPA has taken actions that benefit refiners at the expense of farmers. And by retroactively granting an unprecedented number of small refinery exemptions, EPA effectively waived 2.25 billion gallons from refiners' 2016 and 2017 RFS obligations. Not only do these actions contradict President Trump's pledge to uphold congressionally mandated volumes, but they have also destroyed corn and ethanol demand, leading to lost income for Iowa's farmers at a time when farm income is already at its lowest level since 2006. Yes or no, Mr. Wheeler, do you believe the RFS should be implemented in a manner consistent with the original intent of Congress?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so let's distill, and thank you. Let's distill this even further then. For compliance year 2017, the EPA granted 29 small refinery exemptions totaling 1.45 billion gallons, which removes that many gallons from obligated parties' compliance requirement, which is the 15 billion gallons, that's the implied corn ethanol requirement, minus the 1.45 billion gallons is 13.55 billion gallons. So you just take the 15 that's implied, that's the requirement, minus the 1.45, and it gives you 13.55 billion gallons. So that's about 10% below the statutory requirement. Is that correct? It would be about 10%.
I will trust your math, Senator.
Okay,
yes.
So yes, it is about 10% below the statutory requirement. So if these gallons aren't reallocated somewhere, then you're not implementing the RFS in a manner that is consistent with the original intent of Congress, correct?
Well, part of the original intent of Congress was also to grant the waivers, and there was not a provision for reallocating that. We are taking a look at that issue, but we're trying to be much more clear and transparent as we grant any small refinery waivers. But as you're aware, we've been sued twice on this for not granting enough, and we've lost both times.
And I understand that. And there is also an obligation, though, of 15 billion gallons. And so those gallons that have been granted waivers for, we have to figure out a real allocation strategy.
I agree. We have to figure out a real allocation strategy,
Okay,
there, but we are confined by the law.
And thank you. And the law does require 15 billion gallons. So last November, before this committee, you were committed to issuing a determination on whether or not the EPA can grant the Reed vapor pressure waiver. And just last week in Iowa, President Trump again expressed support for removing the outdated regulatory barrier preventing the sale of E15 year-round, and indicated his administration is, quote, very close to implementing the RVP waiver. Can you state for the record that EPA has the authority to begin a rulemaking process to provide RVP relief for ethanol blends of E15 and higher?
We can certainly start that process. It's, you know, as you know, Senator, there are certainly people that don't believe we have that authority. The legislation that this committee considered last year would have been very clear in giving EPA that authority. But we are looking at that issue, as you and I have discussed a few times, and happy to discuss with you further on moving forward on an RVP issue.
And we find that that is very important, as something that the President has committed to. I will say in closing that RVP parity and the sale of E15 year-round is a no-cost solution that will expand a domestic market for farmers who have been adversely impacted by retaliatory tariffs. RVP parity would not only boost commodity prices, but also be viewed across rural America as the Trump administration taking concrete action to help during a time of economic hardship. Acting Administrator Wheeler, I do encourage you to follow through on the President's directive and remove this unnecessary and ridiculous restriction. I look forward to working with you on these issues. I know we'll have many, many discussions to follow. Thank you
Yes,
very
Senator.
much.
Look forward to those.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Chair.